Lords, for once I'm not entirely hostile to all these amendments. Hurrah. In fact, I would rather that we had media literacy and education rather than regulation. That seems to me to have been the solution to so much of what we've been discussing. But guess what? I have got a few anxieties, so I wanted to just raise them so that the people who put forward the arguments can come back on me. So we usually associate literacy, media literacy, with schools, with young people in education. You'll be delighted to know that I once taught media literacy. It might explain where we are now, but anyway, there we go. It wasn't a particularly enlightening course for anybody, but it was part of the communications A-level at the time. I'm worried about mandating schools to have to teach media literacy. As the noble Lord Knight will know, I worry about adding more to their overcrowded curriculum than they already have on their plate. But I have noted that in these amendments, we've actually expanded this notion of being taught and literacy to adults, away from just children. And I suppose I have just some anxiety about Ofcom becoming the nation's teacher, presenting users of digital services as though they're hapless and helpless. In other words, I'm concerned about an over-paternalistic approach that we shouldn't be patronising. But actually, when I thought about it, and the noble lady Baroness Kidron keeps reminding us, although I don't think that content shouldn't be our focus, it should be systems. In fact, practically every discussion we've had, content has been the focus, because that is what will be removed or not by how we deal with the systems. But that's one of the things that we are trying to struggle with, if you want. And I did actually think that maybe an education, literacy in the systems would be very helpful for everybody. And that would certainly help. So I've got an idea, it's not an amendment, but that we basically send Lord Alan of Hallam on a kind of world tour or a UK tour so he can explain it all to us, because every time he's not in to take this compliment, but every time he spoke in the first week of committee, I think those of us who were kind of struggling understood what he meant, because he explained complicated technical matters in a way that was very clear. So that's my constructive idea. I wanted, though, on the amendments that started this group from Lord Knight of Weymouth, Amendments 52A, does, in fact, it seemed to me, focus on content. And it says it's a duty to make available information to allow users to establish the reliability and accuracy of content. And that does take us back to the difficulties that we were struggling with in terms of mis and disinformation, I think, in terms of how that will be settled, whether that's even feasible. I don't know if anyone has been following the mask wars that are going on. There are basically bodies of scientists on both sides of whether the efficacy of mask wearing, and they're kind of wielding scientific papers at dawn, as it were. And these are people who are well-informed, proper scientists, and they completely disagree on whether mask wearing was efficacious during the lockdown. I only say that because I think establishing reliability and accuracy isn't that straightforward. And I like this idea that's put forward that, if content is made available to users, such information that may be necessary to allow users to establish the reliability and accuracy of content encountered on the service. And what I just keep thinking all the time is, what we need people to do, adults and young people to do, is to say that there is not one truth, there isn't the science, but that actually they are equipped, given the tools, to search around and compare and contrast different versions. I'm involved in debating matters for 16 to 18-year-olds, and they have these topic guides in which you say, here is an argument, there's 4 really good articles for the argument, but there's 4 really good articles against the argument. And here's a load of background, so that at least 16 to 18-year-olds will think, oh, there's not just one answer. And if anything, I felt that was the way forward. The only other concern I've got, I noticed that the noble Lord Clement Jones said that I was preaching a counsel of despair, whereas I actually like to think of myself as a person who has faith in the capacity and the potential of people to overcome problems. And there is a slight concern I have when I read the literature, not so much the amendment, but the literature associated with media literacy, online literacy, digital literacy. It's always saying we've got to teach people about the harms of the online world. And I, of course, am worried that that will reinforce a disempowering idea of kind of feeling vulnerable and everything being negative. The amendment talks of a duty to promote use, or one of the amendments talks of the duty to promote users' safe use of the service. And I would like to encourage a more positive outlook, that we actually would incorporate into this literacy perhaps an approach that would make people aware that they are able to overcome and transcend insults, that they can be robust, that they can be savvy enough to deal with algorithms, that they are always victims but can take control over the choices that they make. Lessons in resilience, and possibly just get them all to read John Locke on toleration.